All right, everybody, welcome back to this is episode 2 of the Horsemen podcast, and I am Brad.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
Okay, so it's our second episode, and the first one we just kind of went over the draft a little bit, just some basic thoughts about the draft and what happened. I think today you guys are in agreement. We're going to kind of run down predictions for the season. Is that right?
A little bit, yeah.
Sure.
Okay, cool. And we all went through. We use a playoff predictor or a season predictor program website, and that's how we kind of came to this. Unfortunately, I had to do it like 3 times because it kept losing it, and I logged back on and it would show that I picked the Bengals to win the Super Bowl, and then another time I logged back on and it showed that that I picked the Texans to win the Super Bowl.
Oh, Jesus.
Like that's ever going
That'll
to
be
happen.
the
Yeah.
I know, right?
I think the Bengals might get it before the Texans get it, especially with O'Brien at the helm. So, you know, speaking of the Bengals and the Texans, you've heard me criticize for years that I never understood why Marv Lewis was a coach in the NFL as long as he was. And nothing really against the guy, but he never accomplished anything. I think that Bill O'Brien is that modern version of Marvin Lewis.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah,
But I mean,
we-
at the same time, if you look where the Bengals have gone since Marvin Lewis left, you know, kind of went in the tank. He was at least getting them 9, 10, 11 season.
right, which is probably why they were afraid to fire him. But he never really was a great coach, you know, a good coach, but not a great coach. Kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of like a Jim Caldwell type.
not anything like a Jim Caldwell type.
Don't get started on Jim Caldwell.
Jim Caldwell is at the bottom with a guy like Norv Turner. I just don't understand why they keep getting hired. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm the kind of guy that likes to eat my broccoli before I eat my steak and baked potato just to get it out of the way. Let's talk about the NFC East. And let's get that hot mess out of the way and throw it in the dumpster where it belongs.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting division this year.
Yeah, and a dumpster fire again, and the Cowboys, in my opinion, are going to luck out. They're going to benefit from being in a non and might slip into the playoffs at 8-8 or 9-7 again.
I got them at 8-8, but they're out of the playoffs.
Out. What about you?
Yeah.
I have the Cowboys.
Ooh.
And,
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
I think putting Jerry Jeudy into that offense, getting Mike McCarthy in there, he's more of a coach that'll take more chances in the offense, whereas Jason Garrett was more conservative. And I think their defense is coming back too, so I think they can pull a lot of wins out.
Meet CD Lamb.
Yeah, who did I say? Jerry Jeudy?
Yeah, he went to the Broncos.
Yeah,
Lamb was a good pickup. Yeah. Lamb was a good pickup.
My concern, Jeff, about what is this goes back to the conversation that started it with the whole Marv Lewis and Bill O'Brien thing is that I put Mike McCarthy in that same middle category, the guy that's going to win. So, you know, 10-6, I'm not really going to argue with that, but I don't see them doing a whole lot in the postseason. I think personally, I think he should have done a lot more in Green Bay than he did. We don't expect much out of the other 3 teams in that division.
I got Philadelphia winning at 11-5.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't ask me.
There were a lot of the Philly games that I was up in the air about because you can't really That team's
Yeah.
kind of dependent on what he's doing. So if he can stay healthy, I think they can have a better record. I have them at 8-8 in my projections, but I think they can go 10-6 too. So I
Yeah.
think the Cowboys are going to fall again.
Interesting. I have them. I have them at 8-8 too. I think that I personally I think that I don't really know how to say this. I think that Frank Reich was what really made them an elite team. And now that he's gone, I don't know that they can really put that magic that we saw a couple of years ago that we're dependent on. And we're waiting for Wentz to stay healthy and the other things that you mentioned. I really think that Frank Reich was the magic piece of that puzzle. Quite honestly.
Yeah, it's definitely the way it seems.
Yeah. No. Okay, you want to move on?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's go from the NFC East to the AFC East.
It's going to be an interesting division this year.
I think Buffalo's going to come out on top again. I got them 12-4, but I also have the Dolphins 10-6, and they're one of my wild cards.
What do you think, Jeff?
I have the Bills also winning the division. I actually have them going 6-0 in their division. 13-3 to finish the season. I have the Dolphins going 8-8 and going 4-2 in the division. And that kind of depends on how Brian Flores and his guys are developing that team and what they're doing over there. That can go up and down, and what Tua does if he can stay healthy in his rookie year. But I think what Sean McDermott's doing up there in Buffalo and what they're building, I think they're going to have a really big year.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. I think we're all in agreement that this division's a coin toss in a lot of different respects. First of all, when I was running through this, I actually had to do this 3 times, and because it kept deleting it, and so the winner of the division changed every time, just kind of as I went through it 3 different times. There's a couple factors that for me that I find it hard to bet against New England at home ever. I really have a problem with that. Really, no matter who it is, especially in the winter, and because of who Bill Belichick is, he seems to be able to be a magician and make wonders. Now, there's an argument that they may tank this year. I don't know that you can trust Belichick to tank. That doesn't sound like Belichick to me. But I don't know the guy personally, so I don't know. So I found it real hard to bet against them at home. I had the Jets going 0-6 in the division because Adam Gates just is right in that Norv Turner, Jim Caldwell category with me. He's better off just being a coordinator than running the show. So the Jets are giving wins to everybody. I actually had all 3, Miami, New England, and Buffalo at 4-2 in the division. But Miami is a coin toss because you heard me say all last year that I thought Miami was the best, the best worst team in the league. And I said that in a joking manner, just meant that they weren't doing well, but I saw glimpses of greatness, what I thought would be glimpses. And this is Flores' year to really, really show whether that's accurate or not. So all 3 times, interestingly enough, one time I had Buffalo winning, one time I had New England winning, one time I had Miami. And so to me, that really illustrates just how up in the air this division can be with so many different, variables going on. So this should be a fun division to watch, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. I have I did this playoff predictor for a second time because I lost my first one, and both times probably mostly biased, but also I just don't think the Patriots have a lot of talent left. I have them going 1-15, which would, let's be honest,
Patriots 1-15.
1-15.
Oh boy,
We can only
I love
hope
to
that
see
they go
prediction, right?
1-15 and still not get Trevor Lawrence. That's my only fear.
So, do you think the 1-15 is fine and they can't get it done, or because they're tanking?
I just think between losing, they lost Tom, obviously. They didn't really have a whole lot of weapons in there, anyways. They were dependent on what Julian Edelman really produce the way I think people expected him to in his rookie year. So their offense is going to be shaky. Nobody knows what Jared Stidham's about. And their defense, they lost some key contributors to their defense going other places. And Miami actually picked one or two of those guys up. And so with as much change that's about to happen in New England, as good as Belichick is, I just don't know how you replace that much production leaving the building all in one season from a bunch of rookies and second year players.
What do you think, Zach? What'd you have the Patriots at?
I got them 8-8. Only going 2-4 in the division though.
Okay.
I think I have them. I think I have beaten the Jets both times.
Okay. So you don't see them beating the Dolphins in New England?
Let me check my thing here. Actually, yeah, I take that back. I have the Dolphins losing in New England.
Okay. Yeah. And an interesting note with that, for anyone that's paying attention and people who aren't AFC East fans or diehard fans probably don't pay attention that New England has a really tough time winning to Miami. They always have.
Mm-hmm.
There have been some weird some weird outcomes that have happened down there, and seems to be one of those things that's never a given. All right. Let's go to the NFC West. Is this a lock for San Francisco or no?
Nah.
No?
No, I got Seattle and San Francisco battling it out until the final week. And then San Francisco's going to win it and take the division. But Seattle will still get in as well. Both 12.
That's what I had too.
Yeah, that's exactly how mine's set up.
Yeah. Mine too. This one, this third one I did came out with Seattle 11-5, San Francisco 14-2. But I know that the other two, I had San Francisco winning division all three times, but the other two were a lot closer. And 14-2 is really hard to run in this league, so I don't really think I'm not really going to bank on that. I think those interdivision games, all bets go out the window, and weird stuff happens. So I think you're both right. I think we all three agree there. But I think we all three agree San Francisco wins the division.
Yeah, I think they'll get it done.
Yeah, if they can beat Seattle at least one time. If Seattle wins both the games against them this year, then
fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was easy. Let's go to the AFC West. Same question. Chiefs lock this up easy?
Oh yeah.
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 That was a stupid question.
Yeah, a lot of people I think the Chargers have been project like that. The experts are saying that the Chargers are projected high and supposed to do well, and they have they're stacked on the defensive side. They're ridiculous on the defensive side. But I don't know, Tyrod Taylor, I would depend on leading my team to the playoffs.
What do you think, Zach?
I got the Chargers at 3-13. I think they'll probably do a little bit better than that, but that's what it came out when I was doing my predictor. But that whole division is pretty much trash for the Chiefs. But going back to the Chargers, how long do you think Tyrod will be the starter before they put Justin Herbert in?
I don't know. They sound like they're pretty content with riding Tyrod Taylor out. He's been in that offense. I would assume they want to, because that offensive line up there in LA still isn't that great. So you might as well keep Tyrod in there as your starter. He's got the experience. Let the kid sit. If Tyrod gets hurt, because he takes so many hits, getting sacked or whatever, then you can have Herbert come in if you really need to. I think that Tom Telesco and Anthony Lynn. I think their plan is to sit Herbert for the year.
I have same thing. I mean, the Chargers and the Raiders pretty much sitting around the 8-8 level, give or take 2 or 3 games in either direction, just because of the unpredictability. And the Broncos just kind of floundering, not doing a whole lot either. So I think we all agree the Chiefs have this whole thing locked up, pretty dominant fashion.
Yeah,
I got them 13-3. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have Chiefs at 14-2, but the Broncos are going to be a wild card too, because Drew Lock showed some promise last year, had some flash to him. They already have Cortland Sutton there at wide receiver. They just got Melvin Gordon. They already have Philip Lindsay, and they just drafted Jerry Jeudy. And so it should be an explosive offense, defense. They lost Chris Harris this offseason, which is going to hurt. But I think the pass rush is good enough to make up for a little bit of that secondary that they don't have anymore.
What's your record prediction for the Broncos?
5-11.
Okay, that's about right where I had them. You, Zach?
I got them. I got them 6-10.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, NFC North. I think it comes down to the Vikings or the Packers.
I got the Packers taking it. Surprisingly, I got them 14. I got the Packers at 14-2 and the Vikings at 11-5. Both are going to be in the playoffs.
Okay, Jeff.
It's a lot of belief in the Packers. I have the Packers winning 10 games, going 10-6, and the Vikings going 9-7, and just missing out on playoffs.
Interestingly enough, in all 3 times that I did this, I had both Minnesota and Green Bay both going 10-6, and with Minnesota edging it out. So I think we all 3 answered the question that that this will be a battle between 2 teams. That Chicago and Detroit are probably just going to pick up the scraps and have mediocre or slightly less than mediocre years, I think.
Yeah, unless Nick Foles decides to go back to Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles for the Bears all season, but
not gonna happen.
Yeah, you can't depend on that.
Okay. All right. Well, that moves us to the AFC North. Again, I think we're looking at 2 teams here. The same 2. The same 2 every year.
No, I think the Browns got exponentially better this offseason. They upgraded their offensive line, upgraded their defense, and had a pretty decent draft. That wasn't anything over the top spectacular, but I think they've done a pretty good job the last 2 years of piecing that team together.
Well, so without discrediting you, because I don't mean to discredit you at all, but you've said that the last 3 years about the Browns, and and everybody said that the last 3 years about the Browns, and it just never happens. It just never materializes for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, and I think I had talked to Zach a lot about when Baker was coming out of college. We had been talking going up to the draft, and I remember telling him a lot. Like, I just don't think Baker's going to be that guy in the NFL. And his rookie year, he had some flashes when he came in, but that tends to happen. Kind of a lot of rookie will come in, make a splash, and then next season when everybody's got tape on them, people start to shut it. Like Mitchell Trubisky, basically. People figured out his game, shut him down, and now he's getting benched for another guy. So we'll have to see how that rides out.
Yeah. Zach, what's your opinion on the? Go ahead.
I was gonna ask Jeff what the record is he has for the Browns.
10-6 and 3-3 in the division.
Woo! Going big. I got him 6-10, 5-1 in the division, but I don't know.
I actually have 3 AFC North teams going to the playoffs.
Wow.
Yeah.
you're not showing you got to take that from somewhere. You must not be showing Tennessee any love. We'll get to that, but
Yeah.
Tennessee,
Yeah.
does
No.
Tennessee go to the playoffs in your predictor?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll get to it in a second.
The Bengals actually didn't get any love. Bengals go 0-16. I don't know. I didn't look over their schedule or anything, but they just, I don't know if that team's up to par. They went 0-16 in my predictions twice.
Or so, 0-16 is like I said earlier with the 14-2. The odds of a team going 0-16 are almost impossible, but I think it still illustrates the point that you don't expect anything out of them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. The first thing, I mean, we've talked about Cleveland and Cincinnati. Pittsburgh's another New England. Betting against them at home is a terrible bet. I don't care who they're playing. It just doesn't. Not that they won't lose a game at home. I just don't know which one it is. You might say the Ravens, but that's an interdivision game, and all bets go out the window with interdivision. So I had a hard time betting against the Steelers at home. Even in a down year, the Steelers are really tough at home. But I think I had Pittsburgh going to the playoffs, but I think Baltimore dominates this division, hands down.
Yep.
Agree. Yeah, I got Baltimore 14-2. They're my number one AFC team.
Yeah, I had them 14-2 too, and I think they were my number one AFC team.
They were 14-2 for me, but I had the Chiefs at 14-2 also. So Baltimore's number 2 on mine.
Okay.
Don't they play this year?
Yes, they do, like week 12 or something like that.
Week 3. Who do you got winning that game? The Chiefs?
Let's see. I'm pretty sure I chose the Chiefs on that. Yeah, I did. Chiefs.
You said week 3?
Yeah, it's week 3. It's Kansas City at Baltimore.
Yeah. See, Baltimore's at home. I can't. With that game, there's so many variables to me. I went back and forth enough that it was like, look, if I'm going to flip a coin, then I'm going to go with the home team.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why I think I gave, even though Baltimore wins that division, I think I had Pittsburgh winning the game against Baltimore in Pittsburgh for the exact reason you were talking about. Pittsburgh is almost impossible to beat at home.
Yeah, I think that's a smart bet. All right, so NFC South.
Yeah, that's going to be the best division in football this year.
Yeah, it'll definitely be exciting to watch.
Yeah, I agree. In my opinion, the only 2 teams really to watch in this division are New Orleans and Tampa Bay. Am I wrong?
You're 100% correct.
Jeff, don't tell me you have Carolina going 10-6.
No, I have Carolina at 7-9 because I like Teddy Bridgewater and DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey in them. But I think I actually have 3 teams from that division making the playoffs. Atlanta being the last one in.
Jeff, how many teams did you put in the playoffs? I'm just kidding because it's so different than mine that I can't. I know somebody that in mine didn't make it in yours, so I was kidding.
Yeah, I think
obviously New Orleans and Tampa Bay dominate this whole thing.
Yeah, Tampa Bay in my predictions actually has the best record in the league at 15-1. And the only loss that I gave them was when they played New Orleans in New Orleans. I expect New Orleans to win that game.
That's week 1.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Think they'll run the table?
After that, yeah, because they have kind of a favorable schedule too. Outside of their division, the division's kind of crazy, but outside of their division, the schedule's not really anything too intense. So I think they have a pretty good chance of putting up a lot of points, stopping people from putting up points, and winning a lot of games.
Yeah, that happens when you don't throw 4 or 5 interceptions in a game anymore.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That's a winning NFL formula right there. Don't throw 4 or 5 interceptions. You can win games.
Yeah,
My Trent
especially pick
that's my Trent
sixes.
Dilfer advice.
Yeah, but it'll before we get out of that division, it'll be interesting to see what happens because they lost some people on defense. Desmond Trufant went to the Lions, I believe. I don't remember where he went, but he's gone. And so they brought some young people in. They've had some pretty injury-prone guys on their defense. That's really my concern with them. Todd Gurley, I think he'll be fine in whatever role they have. That's mostly a passing offense. They have all the receivers they need there in Atlanta. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Atlanta this year because if Todd can ball out and Matt Ryan can go back to MVP form and that defense can be middle of the league type, then I think they'll squeak into the playoffs.
Okay, Zach.
Bucks. I got them 13-3 this year, 5-1 in the division. I think Saints will get them opening week in New Orleans. Then the next two losses I have for the Bucks is against Green Bay and Kansas City. So they're 13-3. I also have New Orleans 13-3. But Tampa Bay is going to come out on top and be the number 2 seed in the NFC, and New Orleans will be a wild card team at number 5.
Oh,
Atlanta,
wow.
I have
Okay.
Atlanta, I have 8-8, and Carolina 3-13. Both of them not getting in.
Who's your number 1 seed in the NFC? Just out of curiosity.
I believe, the Packers. I had the Packers, Bucks, San Francisco, Philadelphia, New Orleans. Who was 6? Seattle, and then Minnesota, number 7.
Okay. Well, I agree with you. Like I said, I did this 3 times. Both times it flip-flop between Tampa Bay and New Orleans. I think, the wild card here is what Tom Brady is going to bring. And I think, you'll hear people say, oh, what's Tom Brady's going to come and, he's a Super Bowl winner. He's going to do this and that. And you hear people say, oh, well, he's washed up and he's old and blah, blah, blah. And I think the biggest point here is that Brady is so smart and so calculated that I think he's just going to come in. I think he knows his limitations, which is critical for an aging quarterback, right? As guys like Favre started to deteriorate, Favre didn't know how to play any differently than he had, and he just fling it all over the place, and which is what made him great. I mean, I'm not complaining, but I think Brady is such a field general and so controlling that he understands what his limitations are, what his weapons are, where he needs to go, and his experience will naturally evolve. I mean, because they didn't have it last year, obviously. With the guy that was just throwing interceptions every third pass, it seemed like as you watch them. And so I think it really depends on, obviously. I mean, I don't mean to speak the obvious, but I'm going to. It depends on what Brady's going to do. But I think his wisdom can carry an already poised a team that's already poised to win. I think Brady can really push them over the top and make a run. And I don't think this is a dynasty being built because I think he's lucky if he has 2 or 3 years left in him. But I think it's the kind of injection that a really good team might need to make a run to the Super Bowl. I really do.
Yeah,
I agree.
And on the opposite end of the spectrum, we're getting to where in New Orleans we're getting to where Breeze's last stand. I don't know where Breeze runs out of gas. I don't want to predict when he runs out of gas, but he knows, and the coaching staff knows that the clock is ticking, and you can easily rally around that. So Breeze is still putting up the numbers he's been putting up and can do what he normally does. Great coaching and a great core. They'll rally around, knowing they've got to beat the Bucks. I think this is going to be a fun division to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Anything else on the South?
Hopefully, we'll be able to make it to a game.
Yeah. I certainly. I looked at the schedule and there's like 8 of them I want to go to. So.
Yeah, and
yeah, we'll definitely.
MVP.
Yeah, You think Drew Brees is the MVP?
Has to be. Even if he's not the MVP, like just give him the MVP, honorary MVP.
It'd be cool if it worked that way.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see him get it too.
Yeah.
So. All right, best for last.
That's right.
Let's start from the bottom up. Jacksonville.
Yeah. I got them at the bottom too.
I'm 3-13, 0-6 in the division. I don't even remember what games I had them winning. I think they were just, I gotta give them a win so they don't go 0-16.
Yeah, somebody like the Bengals probably. You know, I did the same thing. A couple times I had like 4-12 or 2-14 or 3. You know, it was always there at the bottom, just really not producing anything.
Not at all. I got them at 2-14, 0-6 in the division. I think one of the games I had them winning was against the Bengals.
That doesn't surprise me. All right, this is going to piss a lot of people off, but second from the bottom, we all agree is the Texans.
Agree.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, that I think they peaked. I think they've gotten out of. I just think they peaked. I think they're moving backwards. Last year in the playoffs was a disaster. The draft was a disaster. I just think it's a sign of things coming apart at the seams, which we saw with guys like Jim Caldwell when he was with Indianapolis. There just comes a time where a coach appears to be losing control, and that's my opinion of the Texans.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think they need to get O'Brien out of there. He's just tearing them apart. They had a really good team last year. He just season moves, and now they're just falling apart.
Yeah, I didn't really understand, why he felt the need, Bill O'Brien, why he felt the need to make so many wild changes, and you're giving up draft picks in the process. You're giving up some of your key guys. It's looking like a rebuild, but you're giving up draft picks. And I don't know why he wouldn't keep those guys together. They looked really good toward the end of the season. You keep that core group of guys together to gel together is what you normally see in the NFL. And he just disrupted that whole. And Deshaun Watson, people call him the magician, and he's insane. He's an elite quarterback, but you can only do so much with what you have around you.
That's right. And I don't know where Watson's peak is. I don't know if he's peaked, if he's going to peak, if he's peaking now. I don't know. I don't know what that answer is, and none of us will until we watch. But the reality is, at some point, there's going to be a peak, and then his level is going to downgrade, and the core around him has to get better while he's peaking to create a dynasty. And I just don't see that happen.
No, at least not with Houston. If he actually ends up going and getting traded or whatever, goes to up there in New England next year, then or later this season, however that works, then I can see them building a dynasty back up there with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. But it's not going to happen in Houston.
Yeah, I agree. J.J. Watt, we've seen the best out of J.J. Watt, and I don't mean any disrespect. I'm a huge J.J. Watt fan. The guy is an absolute physical specimen. He's an athletic freak. He's an amazing human being. No disrespect intended, but have we seen the best out of J.J. Watt?
I think so. Yeah, I think injuries just got to him, unfortunately.
Yeah, you just don't play at that level for that long and not have physical problems. You just don't.
Yeah, especially he's got so much muscle that he's carrying around all the time, and he's pushing that weight around. And so it's just like Bob Sanders for the Colts back in the day. He's just so dense that he would just tear everything all the time. J.J. Watt's makes a lot of that in his career, and you can tell it's slowing him down.
Yeah. It's too bad for a guy that's had an amazing career for a team to be as good as they were last year, and then to have that outcome. and they're in the South, and we like to tease each other, but I just hate it for a guy like that who's really put his time in, and is a Brian Urlacher type scene. You just want the guy to have a little better outcome than what he had. But I think he's. I don't know how much time, how much gas he has left in the tank. I don't want to predict that at all. But he's certainly not the JJ Watt that he has been.
I think he could do something like DeMarcus Ware, where DeMarcus Ware started to get less productive at the end of his time with the Cowboys, and then he went to the Broncos and was there with Von Miller, and those two tag team, and he kind of revitalized himself and won that Super Bowl with the Broncos. And I think that's something JJ Watt needs to do. Go somewhere where you can thrive and win a championship.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that, and it brings up another good point too. From a tactical standpoint, when you're for the opposing teams, I don't give a shit if JJ Watt has lost a step or not. You still have to prepare for JJ Watt. It still changes your game plan. And so, while you're talking about creating a tandem, if you put someone, opposite that, and now you're focusing more energy on one side, then it makes the other side vulnerable, more vulnerable. And so he still creates a tactical problem for opposing coaches.
Yeah, no, that's what didn't make sense when they just let Clowney walk out of the door. And that would have been like the Colts letting Robert Mathis or Dwight Freeney letting that duo break up right in the middle of them dominating people. No, you pay those guys because those guys are getting it done for you, and they're going to keep getting it done for you if they're together. But
Yeah,
B.O.B. is not your average coach / GM.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, I can't really go third from the bottom. I got to be honest. I think this division is a coin toss between Indianapolis and Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I think there are two variables, right? Tennessee really came on strong at the end of the year. We don't know what Tannehill is going to do. I'm a Tannehill fan. We talked about that a lot because he was under Adam Gase, and Gase is an idiot. And Tannehill is now in a potentially really good system with a potentially really good coach out of a very strong coaching tree. I don't know if Vrabel is a good coach. I don't want to go on record saying that. I want to say that he has the potential. He's shown the potential that he could be the real deal, just like Flores in Miami. He could be the real deal. Tannehill could come out and have an MVP year, and Tennessee could run all over everybody. Is what I was, obviously Henry is Henry, but I think it'd go the other way. Vrabel could have gotten lucky, could have had, they could have peaked at the right time. Tannehill could have had a Fitzmagic moment where it looks like he should have had a 20-year career and 8 Super Bowls, or he could have, turned around and have a Fitzmagic moment where he throws 9 interceptions over a 4-minute period. You never know what you're going to get with Fitzpatrick. We don't know what to expect from Tannehill. Thoughts on that?
I think they're just going to have a average season like they had last year. I think with Houston and Jacksonville being so bad, they'll go 9-7, 5-1 in the division. So out of division, they don't do too hot. But yeah, I got them 9-7, but I have the Colts 12-4 this year, taking the division.
Okay. What do you think about Tennessee, Jeff?
Their schedule isn't anything crazy, kind of like the Colts. Both of them have kind of an easier schedule this year. I have them at 12-4, 5-1 in the division. Colts are 5-1 in the division too. I gave each of them winning their home games. But Tennessee, kind of like you were saying, I've always liked Tannehill. I tried to tell people when he was in Miami that he had what it takes to be a starter in the NFL. He might not be Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, but he had what it takes. You just got to put the right pieces around him. And A.J. Brown came on last year looking like a star. Corey Davis didn't look like he's really going to work out. It might be, a number 3 receiver or whatever. But they have a freak at tight end in Johnny Smith, a freak at running back, and a pretty good offensive line. Jack Conklin not being there is going to affect him, I think. And the only thing I hold against Tennessee this year is that they lost so many pieces secondary. They traded away Jarrell Casey, and so I think that defense is going to fall off, and they might lose a couple more games and end up at 10-6. But I have them at 12-4.
Okay, so all three of us are pretty much in the same arena. Zach, it didn't sound like that you have much confidence that they have any potential, that they have much potential to surge. But I agree with you to an extent, and I've already explained that. So I think we're all in agreement that Tennessee could be decent, or they could not be decent. I mean, I had them at 11-5, and I know I had them at 10-6. I think on one of the other ones. I think a lot of it depends on the Colts, and Zach, you mentioned you had Zach. I think you say you had the Colts at 12-4.
Yeah. Yep. 12-4.
Yeah. I've had them between 10-6 and 12-4 on all three runs that I did. How did you? What was your thought process behind the 12-4?
With the Colts.
Yeah.
I mean, I ran down the schedule. I have them losing to Minnesota in week 2. Also losing to the Ravens in week 9. They lose at Tennessee in week 10 and at Pittsburgh in week 16. But the rest of the games, we have a really easy schedule this year, so I think we'll win all those games.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that completely. First of all, the schedule really helps us out. In the division, I had Indiana. I had the Colts, the Titans, and the Texans, all three going 4-2. Jacksonville, just sucking hind tick, going 0-6, giving everybody wins all over the place. I at this division, I think it's hard to win on the road in the division. I had a real hard time, Tennessee. I gave Tennessee home wins in the division. With the Texans, I think I had the Colts beating the Texans. I think the Colts are just that much better than the Texans. Might be a little biased. I don't know. But to your point, the strength of schedule really helps out here quite a bit. What do you think, Jeff?
I have the Colts finishing up at 13-3. Their first loss, that the first half of the Colts schedule is cake up until I believe the bye week is week 7, and then we play the Ravens, we play Detroit and then the Ravens. So we get the Ravens in week 9, but those first 7 games and having that bye week in there is pretty easy. There's a game against Cleveland in there that's up in the air. Depends how Cleveland's looking coming into it. But I have the first loss that the Colts take is going to be against the Ravens. There was another one that I think I gave the Colts playing when they played the Packers, and that was kind of dependent on, I don't know what the Packers are going to look like. They didn't really get a new look. They didn't do a whole lot with their team. So if people have figured out that system, then they might not be as good. And the Colts defense should be really good this year. So I think we can lock the Packers down. The Colts might be more of a 11-5 kind of team this year, but because that defense is going to be so stout, kind of gave them a couple more wins because of it.
Yeah. So I think the Colts are the dominant team in this division. Well, dominant's a strong word. I don't want to use dominant. I really want to give Tennessee their place. I honestly do. I was impressed with what they put together last year, and I really want to see what Vrabel can do. But there's a couple things that I want to personally point out about the Colts. First of all, they split the division with everybody last year. So I don't care what kind of run. I don't care about the Houston winning the division. I don't care about the run Tennessee had. We need to call it what it is. They all three split the division last year. I think everybody was 3-3. Is that right?
I believe so.
Well, the Texans might have been 4. Texans might have been 4-2. They might have split with Tennessee. So my point is, despite what the Texans fans claim for last year is, and I don't mean to, with that any disrespect. I mean, they had a good season. I would have been happy with my team too. But despite those claims, despite what Tennessee was able to do in the second half of the season, the playoffs, what we're not talking about is the shit the Colts went through in the first 8 games, right? Luck. I mean, your future Hall of Fame quarterback walks out 2 weeks before the season. 6 months of preparation just completely went down the toilet. Absolutely. There's no way to recover from that. There's just absolutely, I don't care who you are, there's no way to recover from that at all, period. That's like Deshaun Watson getting hurt in week 1 and being out the rest of the season. It just, you can't recover from it. No way. And I don't mean that any disrespect to Jacoby Brissett. You just can't recover from it. Your Hall of Fame kicker, Mr. Automatic, who never misses a damn thing, loses 3 or 4 games for you in the first 8 or 9 games. You can't recover from it.
That would have made a difference in the standings. Colts would have had the division.
That's right. That's exactly right. Now you expect the kicker to miss 1 or 2. So I'm not going to say let's give them all 3 or 4 games, but you give 1 or 2 games, it changes the entire complexity of the NFL overall for everybody. And despite those things happening, and despite the success that the Texans and the Titans had, they still, split the division with Tennessee and we're 1 game down in the division to the Texans. So I think that's remarkable. The other thing is I want to talk about Phillip Rivers, and I want to go on record. You both know I am not a Phillip Rivers fan at all. I never have been. I don't like the guy. I don't know why. It's just his TV persona doesn't click with me. I understand that, I don't know who he is or whatever, but I'm just not a Phillip Rivers fan. I haven't been a Chargers fan. But I like this move with the landscape of the way things were. I would rather have Andy Dalton come into the picture, but I'm not involved in the decision making. I don't know why that didn't happen, or that's neither here nor there. So let's get back to Frank Reich. All right, Rivers is another guy who knows his clock is ticking. Right, he threw a lot of interceptions. He didn't have any help. He didn't have any protection. The guy's he's a winner. He's doing everything he can to try to win, and he's throwing the ball all over the place. Has a really rough season. Now he comes into a system that last year we just talked about could have. I don't want to say should have, because a lot of things happened, but could have, by all rights, won their division and been in the playoffs. He's coming into that system that's already set up, and he knows what his limitations are. And if he doesn't, in my opinion, he may have one of the best quarterback relative coaches whispering in his ear, telling him what his limitations and expectations are. So I think with Rivers, it's not looking at what happened last year. It's going to be more of a matter of, is he going to buy into what Frank Reich's selling? And I have to believe he has, or he wouldn't be there. So Frank Reich is a genius. The guy has played for perhaps one of the best coaches in the NFL ever in history, Marv Levy. He played under perhaps one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history with Jim Kelly. We saw what he did in Philadelphia. And he's done all the right things here. And I think Phillip Rivers might be, with a Tom Brady going to Tampa scenario that we have in Indianapolis, it might be the guy that makes him a contender right now for the next 1 or 2 years. Thoughts?
I agree. I think with Rivers, he has to protect the ball and just manage the clock. I think he'll do well as long as he doesn't turn the ball over. He'll do fine. We have weapons all around him, a great offensive line. You have Reich, who is his offensive coordinator in San Diego for a while. I think he'll do well.
Good point about Reich being the offensive coordinator of San Diego. That relationship that is going to be very powerful. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I think that the addition, you bring in Jonathan Taylor, right? We already had Marlon Mack last year, who missed 4 games and some change, 4.5 games, whatever. He still had over 1,000 yards and still had 8 touchdowns. And, by himself, that's not the team as a whole. That's just one running back on the squad. And Nyheim Hines is the pass catcher coming out of the backfield. So we have him. You know, we can put him in the slot, keep him as a blocker, or whatever. And then we have Jonathan Taylor. That 1-2 punch is something. I heard a stat the other day, and I feel like I'm going to get the year wrong here, but it's been since like 2007 that Phillip Rivers had a top 10 rush attack, even when he had LaDainian Tomlinson. It's been since 2007. His pass protection hasn't been top 10 since like 2005 or something crazy like that. So I think just that versatility there is going to help Phillip Rivers out. It's going to take some pressure off of him. He's not going to have to yak the ball up all the time, so that's going to limit interceptions right there. We have guys like Zach Pascal and T.Y. who can just run past guys. They're really good route runners. And now he has a guy in Michael Pittman who has a lot of the same skill set as a Keenan Allen, who Phillip Rivers has been playing with for a while there in L.A. or in San Diego. And so I think he's going to thrive in the offense. Like Zach said, he has Frank Reich, he's been in that system before. Nick Sirianni was his quarterback coach before, so he has a lot of familiarity with the staff, with the system, and I think he's going to come in and pick it right up. I don't think there's really any learning curve. I think it's everybody here knows the system now. Let's get it. Let's go. Let's compete.
Yeah. Yeah, and so with Tampa Bay and Indianapolis, we may be looking at a Peyton Manning to the Broncos scenario here with both teams.
Yeah,
I sure
that's
hope
the way
so.
it seems. Yeah, right.
How cool would that be for Tampa Bay and Indianapolis to be in the Super Bowl together?
Here
be
in
awesome.
Tampa.
In Tampa, yeah, that would be. What'd you say, Jeff? One of you said we had to get a mortgage to go to the game. But,
yeah, I'd be taking out a personal loan if that happened. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
All right, guys, we're out of time. And so the next episode, we're going to get together and discuss the division winners and kind of go through the playoff lists. We'll not only, predict some playoff spots, but talk about some teams that could probably sneak in and swap out for whatever reason, and kind of explore that options and work our way through the playoff grid and maybe into who we think is maybe our Super Bowl teams. Fair enough?
Yep, that'll work.
Cool. All right. Well, for everybody watching or listening, we appreciate you checking this out. Please share it with your friends and, show us some love. Like, subscribe, share that whole thing. And be sure to check in the next episode when we talk about the playoffs.